Well, oh, Dave. Oh, what have we here? Okay.
Thanks so much for being here.
You're welcome.
I want to start off with a little piece of exciting news. People who know about TCM and know about the inner workings of TCM are aware that there's 3 filmmakers that have kind of served as board of directors, stewards, advisors for the channel for the last couple of years. Yourself, Paul Thomas Anderson, and Steven Spielberg. And yes, which we are so grateful for. And the 3 of you have agreed to extend your services till the end of 2025.
Yes.
So I want to announce that and say thank you. Because it's been invaluable to have you. As you know, we just celebrated our 30th anniversary of the channel last year. I'd love to know why Turner Classic Movies is meaningful to you.
Well, having grown up pretty much half in a movie theater due to, at the time in 1945, I contracted asthma. I was 3 years old. My parents put me in a movie theater and all that sort of thing. And television. I've seen on television the kind of a development of cinema on television, going back to the late 40s where they had films that they were able to get the rights to, mainly British films, and I began being fascinated by British cinema, Italian neorealism on television, and then throughout the 50s and 60s, watching films and discovering films to a certain extent with commercials in them and that sort of thing. As the years have gone by, and the technology is obviously, we're talking about, the television of the 50s and 60s as ancient as I happened to go to the Cinema Museum in Torino last year. And they have machinery they have technology back to the 14th century of moving image. And I feel that the TVs that I grew up with is like from the 14th century.
Right, yeah.
And the films that were shown on it are kind of like amazing that you saw the image. And so
that's the pre-code era, right?
Yeah. Well, it was
14th
really.
century.
But what I'm getting at is that with the development of the technology, it seems that the films that were made prior to 1970 for me, because in the 70s I kind of changed my perspective because I started making my own films. So I was a film goer and a film lover, but I was also a filmmaker. And that changes things. But what I'm getting at is that the presentation of these films, the availability of these films has changed to the point where I'm concerned that because of the media itself and the technology, and because of the extraordinary expanse now of treasure troves of films, not just from Europe, and Japan, but from all over the world, it's almost impossible to figure out what to look at. And impossible for a young person to say, I want to study cinema. Well, where do you begin? And so these films that TCM has presented to the world, these films, they now have a home. It's different. Television is different, that we used to have 12 channels or whatever, and Channel 5 will show this, Channel 9 will show that. Now, it's apps. There are apps and that sort of thing. I'm concerned that ultimately the films that are presented on TCM would fall into the category of museum pieces. Because in the old days, too, in the 60s and 70s, very often we'd see a lot of these films in a museum. We didn't think of it as museum pieces. It just happens to be where these films could be seen. They were also repertory theaters. But now all of that's combined. And if you see these films certain ways, very often the people, I have to go see an old film. But whereas TCM, they're still alive. There's a freshness to them. They're presented in certain ways. They're curated intelligently. They're curated in an interesting way, sometimes a funny way. But in any event, these films, and they're presented in the best possible quality. You see, so that they make them something not just what would, one would put quotes around the word old. It was Peter Bogdanovich says there's no such thing as old films. It's just ones you haven't seen. And I screened. Yeah, he was right. And I screened. I remember I would screen for my daughter, my youngest daughter, films every weekend. probably warped the poor kid.
Is that Francesca?
Yeah, we started with Disney. And then, actually, the kid thought that I did the Disney film. I said, how about that Cinderella?
Now you're starring in her films that I watch on my phone.
When she said, Dad, you didn't do those. No, anyway. When she was about 10 or 11 or 12, I think, 10, 11 maybe, I showed a couple of films one day. One of them was Cyrano de Bergerac with Jose Ferrer, black and white. And her friend was with her, who had seen these films too. And after it was over, she goes, that's the best film I've ever seen. When was that made, a couple of years ago? I said, yeah.
Yes. Ignorance is bliss.
They can't tell.
Yeah.
Because it's new. I mean, they can maybe tell at a certain point when Francesca turned to me when she was about 8 and said, do they talk in this film? They begin to get a little, But even that, the reaction I remember to, the Chaplin, of course, and Keaton, but the reaction to Sunrise was immediate. They were yelling back at the screen, kids. Don't go there, don't go near him. It was really strong. It was like didn't matter. There was no dialogue.
Wow.
And so that was the proof that somehow these things touch people. They touch young people today, and don't make them something exotic. They are alive now, and they're not only the history of cinema, but the history of who we are, a country. Who we are as a people, who we are as a civilization, for better or for worse.
Yeah. One of my favorite things about you, and I don't think this is hyperbolic, I do think this is true, that when you're traveling, you will literally not stay in a hotel.
No, I won't stay.
Unless TCM is on the
That's
TV.
For now. I'm sorry. I mean, look, there have been a few places, I got to tell you, okay. But, I mean, there's some places there was TCM even in North Africa when I was there. So, in Morocco, I had it. But there are a few places one or two places in Oklahoma I had trouble with.
Okay.
Yeah, but we found one. It was fine.
Okay, good.
And then it turns out there's the app, there's the iPad, there's all that, which isn't bad. But no, for me, the nature of these images, the old ones, the new ones, even as you show a newer film, let's say, something that was made in the
Hugo?
80s.
We show that a lot.
Yeah, or a newer film, like whether it's Hal Ashby film or Cimino or whatever. You have they're there. They're like a part of my life blood in a way, and so for me. Also, having grown up with television, I grew up in an apartment in the tenements downtown where my parents didn't read. They didn't bring books in the house, so I had to find everything myself. Movies on TV, books myself. That for me, the live stream of these images are part of my creative function, so I have to have them on.
That's great.
And as soon as I come in, that goes on. I sometimes keep the sound off.
I've heard that. Paul Thomas Anderson, I think, keeps it on silent.
I keep it silent because, and there's something, I'll hit it,
I'll yell louder next time.
No. You got the intro's okay. I'm talking about the film.
Oh, okay. Good answer.
I mean, if you're going to do an intro to Vertigo, I think I've heard it. Okay, so. A little bit of.
Our head of programming, Charlie Tabish, is in the audience. Charlie, no more Vertigo.
Oh, great.
At least for a little bit. Our advisor has spoken. People often ask me what was kind of my gateway film, my intro film that made me fall in love with classic film. For me, it was Laura, Otto Preminger's Laura with Dana Andrews and Gene Tierney, although I thought Dana Andrews was the woman and Gene Tierney was the guy.
Oh, right, because Dana, yes.
Dana and Gene, G-E.
Gene is like a man's...
Right, exactly. How about you? Was there one movie that kind of really flipped the switch for you?
I think... because of my physical problems of the asthma and that sort of thing, I did see a lot of Westerns, and as I said, the first film I can remember by title was Duel in the Sun, which we finally got a beautiful restoration this year, I believe, again. But for me, I think the key films, right around the ages of 9 or 10, it was The Red Shoes in Technicolor on a big screen.
Great choice.
And you're talking about a kid living in tenements, the wise guys around and stuff like that. The Red Shoes ballet, but still, these people were tougher in the film than the crime families.
Yeah.
Lermontov is a madman. I mean, he's like a dictator, and the passion of that character and hers, and Marius Goring's character. There was that, and also, interestingly enough, The River, Jean Renoir. Right around the same time I saw that in Technicolor. I don't know, to this day, I will see that film again and again, like a great piece of music, just listen to it. The Red Shoes, of course, but The River had a very beautiful quality to it that, aside from the exotic nature of India seen through the eyes of a European, which were different than a few years later when I saw Pate Panchali, which you show on TCM, by Sajid Ray, then I realized, oh my goodness, that's really India. I said that this is a film made by the people that are usually in the background of the films that the Europeans make in India. So this is the real thing, And The River is Ruma Godden, and it's her experience. And there's something about the nature of the river itself, and the river, like the river run, the idea of the river and the river of life, the journey of life. I really felt that with that film, and has a beauty to it that you want to live in, and the younger people going through the rites of passage, It's quite extraordinary.
Is there another version of your life where you would have pursued a career as an actor?
Well, that's an interesting thing. As a young kid, I thought the actor did it. Right? You just do it. Suddenly the movie's there and the actors did it because they're in front of the camera. And I would always think of that. Yeah. A number of people told me I should have, and I said,
I like when you turn up. It's fun.
Oh.
And it's really good. It's
I'm in Jonah Hill's new film.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm in Seth Rogen's show, The Studio.
The Studio.
I play myself in that.
Yeah. What are you playing in Jonah's film?
I play a washed-up agent for young actors. And Keanu Reeves comes back to make amends. Oh, boy.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah.
One other thing that I love is how often your mom and dad would appear in your films. And in cameos, from the late 60s all the way through the 90s. And then, of course, you made Italianamerican, the documentary, yes, which I should tell people is available on Max, which is our sister.
On Max?
Max, yeah, that's Italianamerican is on Max.
Oh, I know.
Were they eager to be in that project, or did you have to kind of coerce them?
Oh, no, I had to coerce them. No, they didn't want to. And also, I have to point out that the furniture in that film is not the furniture I grew up with.
Oh.
No. I grew up with more subtle.
Right, okay.
That stuff. What happened, long story, but what happened was that we grew up on Elizabeth Street, and we were living on the third floor front of 241 Elizabeth Street. It was 3 flights up. And when I moved out, and my brother was married, and I moved out, there was a building across the street that got renovated, and they had a nice apartment on the first floor. So they moved across the street after 25 years. Huh. And so doing, this way it only was 1 flight for them to walk up, And in so doing, they bought all this new furniture. And so when I went to do the film, this ornate, it was Roma furniture, I think it was called, on Canal Street. Oh my God, with the plastic covers.
Yeah.
It was like, I said, this is not really, okay. But in any event, I had to coerce them in a way. But it's all, the thing was, it was a film being made for the bicentennial of America, and they were doing different films on different immigrant groups, and they gave me the Italian one because I did Mean Streets or something, and I said I didn't want to do a typical documentary with the black and white photos of people, and talking heads and that sort of thing. I did use some silent footage from the period, but I didn't want a conventional documentary. I said, what if we just go and have dinner and they answer some questions? And we made up the questions, which to no avail. At least it gave us something. So okay, we're going to go here. We had a sense of a structure, and like 2 days we shot, like 3 hours one day, 3 hours the next, an NYU crew. And what you see in the beginning is really the actual film, because I turned the camera on and basically they took over. And then I went with that. And I realized too, character, combined with at the same time Cassavetes films. And John Cassavetes and Peter Falk came over to that apartment and ate a couple of times.
Did he?
Yeah, Francis Coppola would come over. That little room, the table, they would eat there.
How great.
Yeah, so there was a whole thing going on, and it seemed that the nature of their behavior was very similar to what Cassavetes was doing, what I was trying to do, what I was relating to, and that there was a blurred line then between actors, for me, and non-actors who were really good actors. And so I guess I learned from my mother and father, and I learned from my mother, really, about performance and acting and that sort of thing. But they were always drafted to be in the films because as student filmmakers, we didn't have any cast.
They're cheap.
Yeah, they're cheap. You have to, you got to do it for your son. Okay. My father would come home from working on, in the garment district, and he'd have to go and do a scene. I mean, it was outrageous. And also, they didn't know. There's no such thing as where I came from that you go make movies. You're talking, at one point, I overheard them one night. I always tell the story. When I was at NYU, and I started to make a short film. Now, mind you, at NYU, it just wasn't film. It was classics, and it was physics, and all these other things. And I was making a film, though. And I overheard them saying, my mother said to my father, I think he's crazy. I mean, you had to be, I think. It was just that we saw the world. It was different. As I said, I walked out of the door, went up to Houston Street, made a left, 6 blocks, you're in another world.
That's amazing.
Totally different world.
When you think about the trained performers that you've worked with now, obviously the hallmark is, what I love is all of the great actors that you've repeatedly worked with. So when it comes to someone like Robert De Niro, who you've worked with now for so many times over so many different decades, I'd love to know if he still surprises you on a daily basis on the set, or do you know what you're going to get?
No, he's a surprise.
How?
I don't know. There's something, I go back to Irishman, for example. The moment he walked on the set for the costume shoot, the person was there. It was no longer Bob. It was Frank. And I don't know, man. I said, okay, this is going to be interesting. Where is this going to go? And it had that volume, and it had that silence and intensity where he didn't have to say much, and that carried us all the way through. I said, carried us all the way. We just knew it. We had worked on that project for a number of years, and it was almost like an afterthought. I don't mean to be, it was easy. It was not easy, but it was an afterthought in the sense that we had to get this made. And we were dealing with that CGI, making them younger. We were a new territory there, But I must say that pretty much what that character felt and behaved, how that character behaved, we knew going in. We knew it. And it was like a steady, the foundation of it was there. And we got on that train and just went through. Al was another way. Joe was another way. Their characters shifted and changed, but Frank was one way until finally the revelation that he has to pay up.
Yeah. Wow.
And then what does he do with his own soul? That was one thing. One critic in England talked about, liked the movie to a certain extent, but said something about I didn't give an impression that these gangsters think of their souls. In other words, to justify the ending with the priest and all that, justify. That means that the gangsters are not human beings. No, the problem is they are human beings. They do have a soul. See? And so he had that soul from the very beginning when he walked on that set for that test for his costume. And like when you have that, it's a blessing. It's a blessing. But I got to tell you, part of it goes back because De Niro's the only one who knows me where I come from on Elizabeth Street and Mott Street. We just grew up. He was 16, but he was hanging around with another group of kids up in the Alto Knights. It was a club on, I think, Broome Street. We were not involved with them. Well, each block had its own little crew, and there were tougher crews, and there were kids who were going to college. It was a different thing. It was that split between America and the old world, and we didn't know how to put it together. We had our feet in both, and so he knew, for example, Mean Streets. He knew Johnny Boy. He knew, in fact, Johnny Boy's brother, who was our closest friend, died a couple of months ago. The character's based on, and he came up from Florida, and we went to the funeral, and Sally spoke. His name is Sally, Salvatore. And afterwards, Bob was there and got up and made a beautiful speech because he put the gentleman who died, he put him in this new film, Alto Knights.
Okay.
And got up, and for the first time, Bob met Sally, Salvatore, whom Johnny Boy was based on.
Wow.
We met them in the basement of the St. Patrick's Old Cathedral. And that was 2 months ago.
Oh, wow.
I mean, so it goes that way. Bob got up and made a little speech about Robert, who died, Robert Uricola, and he broke down and cried. And so, this is, it's a blessing to have people that who know the world you come from and don't act on it, but act in it.
Yeah.
They're not acting at it. They are it.
Yeah.
But I didn't know De Niro's father was a painter. I didn't know he came from the village. And
Fascinating documentary about his
I didn't
dad.
know that. I didn't know until the documentary was made. I knew his father, but
Wow.
only after Raging Bull, by the way.
Right.
And De Palma was the one who introduced me to De Niro years later. And when in 1970, and that's when De Niro told me, I was the kid down on Broome Street. Do you remember me? I said, oh, Bobby. Yeah. Because we used to hang. So what I'm getting at is that I may be able to work with actors, younger actors. I might be able to work with Italian actors or British actors. But often the people I've worked with, we know the world we come from, and we feel comfortable in it. And so Bob is one of them. Harvey is the other. Pesci particularly, the women seem to fall right into it. The women in Irishman, or working with the Kate Blanchett, for example, or even with, when we did Casino with Sharon. I mean, it just one has to understand people come from different places. It's like, wait, they came from Australia? Where's that?
Right.
So you have to fit it in, and I think some are not necessarily right for other things, but if you hit the right combination, and they have the fearlessness of, let's say, Kate Blanchett and playing Katharine Hepburn.
Come on.
I mean, go get them,
Well, when you're on the set with someone who is at that top of the top level, like a Daniel Day-Lewis or a Kate Blanchett or Robert De Niro, are you interested in talking to them specifically about how they're doing what they're doing, or are you happy just to sit back and watch?
No, we talk a lot. We have fun with that. We have fun. The issue, though, is that they have to know it before taking on the project. I can't convince them of anything. I've been in a situation a few times, and luckily it was only smaller roles, but I had to convince. And if you're stuck in the trailer talking, that's hard. And, they don't do the work for you. You got to do the work with them. But you also have to be open to, and that's why sometimes I do something in front of a camera. You got to know what they're going through. You know, you got to say, oh, if I move my hand here, they're going to see, just move it. You know, and all these other triple thoughts and quadruple thoughts that get in the way. How are they so clear within a character? How do you do that? I find it fascinating. So for me, it's a lot of talking. I can feel if they have it. I could feel if they're onto it. For example, even in Killers of the Flower Moon, something happened on the project, and we had to shoot a scene out of continuity between Leo and Lily Gladstone. And so it was a scene later on in the picture, and we don't really feel comfortable. We wound up improvising endings to the scene. And as we were doing that, we said, that's not going to work. Okay, oh no, they're too nasty. Oh no, that's too sweet. No, that's like, you know. And in the editing, sure, it showed up. We were able to get one, you know. But we knew going in, okay, since this is out of continuity, and we were rewriting the script every day, we better cover ourselves. And we did find, I did know, I'll tell you guys, well, it felt good. I said, yeah, but I think we're going to go in the wrong direction that way. All right, let's see what happens. So it was a guiding constantly. You do develop it as you go. Very much in Killers of the Flower Moon with Leo, for example, developing that character that, did he really know? Did he really know what he was doing? Did he understand what he was doing? We, every day, changed it.
In the case of someone like Leo or Daniel Day-Lewis, what's the point at which you know this is someone I want to work with again? Is it from the first meeting you can tell it's going to be simpatico? Is it when you're on the set, or is it when you're in the edit seeing the finished performance?
Well, I think in the case of Leo, again, it's another kind of blessing because he has the same interests and same adventurous feel about material and character. Pretty much liked the same projects, movies, books, music. He'll be sending me music from the 1940s. He said, listen to this. And I grew up with that. You know, I said, yeah, that's Louis Jordan. Yeah, so for me, there's a similar sensibility. It's just that there's a different age. It's 25 or 30 years difference. But a very similar sensibility in taking things to a limit, beyond the limit, like in Wolf of Wall Street. Some of those scenes were written, weren't written the way they were shot. We went further, on set. And sometimes we were provoked, like, by the material. Said, this seems too tame. I said, this is not right, And somebody would say, well, originally this. I said, well, let's do that,
Further with language, further with behavior.
Action, behavior with him with the, well, whatever.
Right. I love it.
I mean, and he'd say, you want to do it? I said, I don't know. What do you think? All right, let's try it. And, okay.
And which version would normally make it in?
No, well, the wildest one.
The wildest one.
Yeah. But within the context of the other scenes, it worked.
Right.
They worked. They just seemed okay. And they it's like making a sculpture, and everything worked this way, Me and Thelma in the cutting was just, we were laughing. So, oh my God, that worked. Okay, next. But him, Daniel Day is different. Daniel Day-Lewis, from when I saw him originally in his earlier films, and then working with him on Age of Innocence is where I really fell in love that way. He just, no, he's got it, and he comes in another way. And it's set in terms of the character. And I find it's a different calibration. And I have maybe different language that we work with, or in Gangs of New York, for example, took it to another level. We hope to work maybe one day again, I hope. Oh.
He seems to be second-guessing this whole retirement thing.
Who is?
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah.
So there's hope.
I
for
hope.
all of us.
But he's great to be with. I mean, and also this whole business of he's the character. It's easier. He doesn't come out of character. You could just do what walk over and Bill the Butcher. You got to watch out. I mean, I'm not kidding.
That sounds exhausting.
No, it's okay. You get like, hey, it's Bill, you know. Or
How would you say, after 25 plus features and 60 years or whatever of making features, how has your taste changed, or what kind of topics and themes and characters you're interested in? Has it changed over the years, or do you feel like it's pretty consistent?
Well, that's a good question. I know I have to be, it sounds funny, but I have to be excited or interested in the characters. I have to want to be with them, even if they are unpleasant to be with, because you live with them. And then the actor leaves, I go in the editing. I go for another 9 months, 8 months. I cut what, I don't give it to an editor. I work with them. And so you live the thing. I mean, in Shutter Island, for example, I had a mini kind of during the editing, a kind of panic attacks from being in that world. Just that damn story and that place we shot in. And the different levels of, quote, reality, unquote, where, deceptively went into a project where each scene, we didn't, as we were doing it, Leo, myself, Ben Kingsley, and Mark Ruffalo, realized, wait a minute, is he talking as Teddy, or is he talking as somebody who's playing Teddy? Or is it, went on and on like that. And then there was in this labyrinth and this horrible, nightmarish feel about this poor suffering of the character, the suffering of this poor character. I had a real problem during the post-production of the film.
Wow.
And I want to get out of there. I forget what I did after Hugo, I think.
Nice change of pace. Oh. Good job.
But you do connect with it. And I find, too, that after Hugo, for example, or after Wolf of Wall Street, the nature of the visual interpretation has changed. And does the camera move? What does camera movement mean now when you have, or quick editing, or quick editing, or rapid editing, let's say, when you have, to a certain extent, you have it in the media does it all the time. It doesn't mean anything. And that's not a criticism. I'm saying it's become something that you see. You can walk down the street and it's on an ad. You have your interstitials here on TCM. They're well made. And sometimes we, think, well, that's the way a certain scene should go in a film. But people have seen it, So how do you then interpret a picture in a fresh way? And right away I pull back, like in Irishman. I say, hold on here, let's hold and let's, the nature of his strength and power, Frank's character, should hold the frame, which means you better not move that camera too much, and it kind of locked us in. But there are edited sequences, and there are sequences that I normally would do, which would be I usually go to a place or lock myself away in a hotel or something and work on just designing edited sequences, like for 8 or 9 days straight, days and nights. Just lock it up and just sit there, play music, put TCM on, of course.
Right.
I mean, when I was doing, the Aviator action scenes based on the script that written John Logan, I was designing the shots. TCM was on, Our Town was on, I remember. No sound, but I took it again. I mean, there's the plane going, but there's William Holden.
That's great.
So it's all of that, and they give you freshness, the TCM, the images come up, and wow, they get you excited again.
So when Hitchcock said something like he basically felt like he had already made his movie before he got on the set, are you like that, or are you wanting to open yourself up for
I think I used to be. What's happened now is I got to find another way. And that camera moves or not. What I mean by that is that what is the point of the image? What am I trying to tell you? Am I expressing how I'm feeling about these characters, about the situation with this angle? I don't know. I used to. For example, Goodfellas was an afterthought. I mean, to be funny about that. And also, to be fair, it was an afterthought. Sure, you put, Bob in there, you put Lorraine Bracco, you got Ray Liotta, then you got Joe. And when Joe told me I got this thing happened to me about Are You Funny, it actually happened to him, and he acted it out. I said, I didn't even put it in the script, so let's do it in this scene.
Oh, wow. And
that's the picture. The picture comes out of that, but that's the actor. And in a scene like that, we worked on it in rehearsal and did a couple of improvisations. And I worked out the scene, typed it all up, and gave him the scene. I said, go this way because you hit these different levels. And basically put 2 cameras down and squeezed it in on a day of shooting where we were really rushed. But again, in a scene like that, the angle, notice there are no close-ups. So that's a decision that's made. It's almost done. You just sit there and you watch a show. If they get to hit the right levels. If they're not hitting the right levels, you got to go and you got to get to this, whatever. So the rest of the film, camera moves, cutting the music, all those intercutting with the music, it was all done. It was all done.
When you think back, I was fascinated to hear you talk about Shutter Island and how it kind of messed with you. On the flip side, is there an experience on a set, whether it's an entire production or a day or a moment, that you remember as being particularly magical, where everything was coming together and you were like, this is exactly what I was envisioning?
Well, for example, that scene with Pesci and Ray Liotta. That's like magic. Magic, 3 or 4 takes, and forget it. We were like, the laughter you hear on the track is myself. Some of the studio executives were there that were laughing. Everybody's freaking out. It was kind of it was like, how can I say, it was almost like a party. You could feel that. Or an Irishman, for example, scene between De Niro and Pacino at the big dinner, the big celebration they had, the big event they had for Frank, in which De Niro tells Pacino, playing Jimmy Hoffa, that he has to stop, and Hoffa won't listen. Something happened between the two of them. I didn't know, it wasn't just me, it was people on the crew said, that was wild, that was really interesting. It's there in the picture, you could see that it was so, it transcended what I thought the dialogue would give us. There's something between the two of them that had occurred there in that moment, that dialogue, and the tragedy of that. And he knows, Frank, he feels in his heart is just sinking, and this guy won't listen. The hubris, the ancient Greek tragedy of the man destroying himself, the powerful man, all of this is there. And I was like at their feet. And it happened, it was amazing, Or Margot Robbie and Leo in Wolf of Wall Street, where she throws the water on him and they argue about, she had to pay the guy fixing the tennis court or whatever, and he goes, oh my, you had to put your hand in the purse and take out the money. Oh, you poor. And they improvised on that. It was so funny. It was so, what a lively, every time they came on set, it was fireworks with her, but in a good way, because she would push and move and he would react. Then you threw Jonah Hill in the middle of that. That was the wonder was like going. Leo told me, "Do this movie, you're really going to enjoy it." I said, I don't know. And then he said, "You're going to have fun." And sure enough, meaning it had such life to it, and such joy, and then tragedy in a sense, tragedy, there's no doubt, and anger, and irony. I hate it, but it is, But it's part of who we are, And so I must say, I did enjoy the process of making it. And if you don't enjoy the process, if something happens, it could still be a good film. Sure. It's just that you don't want to go back there. That's all. You say, oh, that reminds me of this or that. It's not a bad film, we hope.
But not a good time.
Not a good time.
Right. Thinking back to Mean Streets, I recently co-hosted with a military veteran who wanted to show that movie, so we did a conversation about it. And in doing the research, I read that it was some crazy percentage of the budget that you had to use for the music rights.
I don't know, but interesting.
And
John Taplin, who produced it, and Ely Perry was the exec producer. I was able to get, I remember this, they're talking about it. No, nobody came to us. We couldn't get music. I mean, nobody knew us. I recall, I mean, don't forget the budget was $650,000. So what you have, 2 Rolling Stones songs, you have all these, you have...
That's your budget.
I mean, well, not then. I don't know what John did or how he got it, but he had been associated with the band, and maybe he knew the music people. You can ask him. He, believe me, I wanted an extra Rolling Stones song, The Last Time it was called, and we couldn't afford that. They said, we don't have any more. But we had Blind Faith, we had Derek and the Dominoes, the rock, the doo-wop stuff I think was probably easier to buy.
Right.
But I must tell you, that was within the budget of $650,000.
Wow.
That was not like because Scorsese. Nobody knew me. The film didn't even have a distributor until Warner Brothers saw it.
Right.
So it was, at that time, I think was the first film to be able to get all that. Really.
Makes such a big difference.
Really did. I mean, it was Floyd Mutrix had made a film too, and he'd gotten some. But I think that was, at the same year American Graffiti was made, and he had music like that. But he used it very differently from beginning to end of each scene.
Right.
And it's a different world, I don't know what George paid for that music, but the Stones and the Italian music too, by the way, was very difficult. From what I understand, they had to go find the people in Italy, they'd pay it, and then if you pay one group and 6 months later another group comes out, and this.
I want to spend the last couple minutes that we have talking about the Film Foundation, which you're so involved in and has restored and saved over 1,000 movies, if I'm
so
correct.
So far, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. For that, you were honored with the Robert Osborne Award at the TCM Film Festival a few years ago, which was very wonderful and exciting for all of us. Why is this something you devote so much time and energy to?
I think it has to do with sharing love, sharing excitement to others of the art. Whether you say, well, it's just an entertainment piece, it's still art. There may be different levels of it, different degrees. It may mean different things to, there were poets in the Middle Ages that were considered great, ancient Roman poets, and now not, But at that time, Dante and all them, he loved Statius, he loved Tibullus, and now they're not, considered. And so I think the power of the art is something that could be shared and makes your life different. And I like to see people reacting to that. And I think the phrase that somebody has mentioned, beauty will save us. And there's beauty in this. And it gives us hope. That's about life. Not just, trivia and stuff like that. It's just, there's some beauty in the actual frame. And I want to share that.
What would you say finally excites you now? Is it new things that you're discovering? Is it new filmmakers and films that you've seen in the past year or two? What is thrilling you at the moment?
At the moment, it's hard because I try to keep up with the new films, but it is difficult. Time. I'm finding time is the issue as you get old. You could look at a film, usually 20 minutes in, or 15. Sometimes it's a friend's work you got to see. You know what it is. And then you sit through the whole thing and talk about,
Are you honest afterwards?
As much as possible. As much as possible.
What do you say if it's not your favorite thing?
Well, it depends on the film. I mean, in terms of the, in some cases, things are so, how should I put it? Well, they're in such a different sensibility that you say, I can never even comment on it. So it's got to be, it's good for what that is.
Right.
You try to make it, but there are things like, you could watch, I happen to like independent British films and Irish films that are being made now in Scotland too. I enjoy watching thrillers and horror films. I know a lot of people problem with horror films, but I like, because the essence of horror, not the gory stuff, I'm talking about the nature of suspense, camera moves, character, perception of the characters and how they're perceiving these strange things happening, or do we really see the strange things? Is it more like Val Lewton, or is it, Alien? You know what I'm saying? I still go back to the Val Lewton films, because there's a poetry there,
Do you see Robert Eggers' Nosferatu?
Yes, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, amazing. Anything he does, this guy.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And that's one that you don't do much after seeing.
Right.
You're still in the world. You're in there. You're in Transylvania, and it's really, whoa. I mean, man, he's something. Talking about Transylvania, I really like Romanian films. Yeah. Mungiu and Piu, I'm mispronouncing the names, Demestro, Police Adjective, anything by Sierra Nevada. And then there's this guy named Radu Jude. Yeah, there's something. Particularly Afarim, film he made in black and white in scope, and another one called, which is, not to everybody's taste, I'm pretty sure, but do not expect much from the end of the world. That was a shocker. And that takes style and political content and cinema and morality, a lack of morality, all up there on the screen, and breaks it up into 1,000 pieces, and you suddenly see the world differently, And that gets you excited. I don't say I can make something like that. I'm saying it gets you fresh and excited.
Yeah, so it doesn't make you want to change your ways, but it
exactly. And so,
thrills you.
he even, I think he was quoted as saying maybe cinema hasn't even started. He's right. He's right.
I cannot tell you how happy I am to sit with you, how happy we are at TCM to have you in our family, and I thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Martin Scorsese.